Well, hi everyone, this is Dr. Schroeder with this week's video introduction to week number 3 of our course in evidence-based practice. And once again, a very nice week of discussion. The primary focus of discussion this week was on conducting literature reviews. And, to kind of recap, back in week 1, everybody had selected a nursing problem and gave your first version of what a PICO statement would be for that problem. Then in this week, the focus was finding information related to that PICO, or related to that intervention that you would propose, and maybe looking at what, or not maybe looking, but actually looking at what other facilities or what other organizations have found have been the correct outcomes or the most reliable outcomes from implementation of those new practice procedures. and really, the focus was just on that literature review, and by far, or literature search, and by far, I think probably the most difficult process of any evidence-based practice project is just finding the best literature and knowing when you've found enough. What we're really doing here in this class, is kind of a condensed version of what happens in the real world of evidence-based practice research, where we identify a problem, come up with a PICO, and then use keywords after keywords, trying to come up with those keyword combinations that yield the best information. Each of you had your library interview these last couple weeks. You should have those papers submitted in week number 2. And most students find that very helpful. Having a librarian is really important when you're doing any kind of task that involves having evidence-based practice research. When I was working on my dissertation, or when I'm currently working on research, or just trying to find out just anything new, sometimes a librarian is one that can really find that and really cut through the stuff out there and just really help you to cut to the chase to really find that best information. So, just a few words about the keyword searches. Remember, all that the databases are going to do is they're simply searching for phrases and keywords. They're not trying to second guess what you mean. They're not trying to interpret meaning. So it doesn't really work to, for example, use a phrase like, the best intervention to reduce hospital infections or something like that. That's very broad. That is something that you could enter into like a Google search and it would work. It doesn't really work in the databases though. So understanding how those keyword searches works, and just understanding that it is keyword searches, that's really what we're looking for here. That's how these work. Trying to get down to roughly between 25 and 50 articles or so. If you have any more than that, then you probably need to throw in some more keywords or refine the search a little bit. And if you're only getting 2 or 3, either you have a very esoteric topic that doesn't have a lot of research, or it is you're using too many keywords or too many limiters. And so that's really kind of the idea, is to get that, trying to get from each of the databases about 25 to 50 articles. And then the next step of the process is we're going to be working on it this week. You're going to have your first paper due this week, your first actual paper, APA paper. It's your Evidence-Based Practice Part 1 paper. The template and the guidelines are posted online. I will not go into great detail about them here, except to say that you are going to be following the guidelines, following the template. You're going to be, in one part of the paper, after you describe your background and give some information and introduce the topic, you're going to describe your search strategy. And basically your search strategy is pretty much fill in the blank here. If you look at the guidelines, where you're going to be identifying the databases that you searched and the keywords that you used. And again, you're doing a narrative discussion of what the keyword search was. It's not just plugging in certain, just words that you used, but talk about how you refined them. How did you get down to a proper number of articles? What was the strategy that you used for that? And so that is part of this paper. And then after that, you're going to be, it's called the Appendix G of the JNHNEBP, which is the John Hopkins Nursing Evidence-Based Practice Model. And that's the textbook. That's a Deerholt and Dane book. So there are posted a series of appendices in the class. Appendix G is your table that shows how your summary of the data. And the idea is you're going to get your 5 best pieces of evidence, and you're going to fill in this table and include this in your paper. You're also going to be using appraisal tools to appraise each of those 5 articles. Remember, it's only 5 articles. You're going to be selecting the 5 best pieces of information that you have, 5 best studies, or the 5 best um, sources of evidence for your supporting your intervention, and you're going to be completing an appraisal tool for each one of those 5. So you don't have to do all the articles. It's just going to be 5, and those are going to be included as an appendix at the end of the paper. The table itself, even though it's called Appendix G, it's not technically going to be an appendix. It's going to be a table that you're going to put in your paper. You should always have a conclusion as well. All papers should have a conclusion where you review your main points and then identify how you met your paper purpose. So in a nutshell, that's what the paper is this week. I'll let you review the question or review the criteria for that. As you have questions, go ahead and let me know. The discussion this week is going to be talking about meta-analyses and integrative literature reviews, 2 different types of research literature that is used to support evidence-based practice. So I hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. I hope that it's not too warm or too hot where you're at. Certainly warmed up out here on the West Coast this week. It was hot out here, which is kind of nice. I'm a summertime boy, so I kind of like the summertime weather. So I hope that your summer is going well. As you have any questions, always feel free to let me know. Look for your grading to be completed for your both your librarian interviews and your discussion questions by the end of the week sometime. And I look forward to answering your questions, participating along class with you, and we'll see you in the discussion forums.